Can you even do me? So me. This is a video about holidays. Holidays. High omega longs inherent diffusions alpha y seen with the S. That's both a statement and a question. Holiday. High omega longs inherent diffusions alpha y. So high omega. We're the definition of, we're the identity of what is high, and we're the identity of what is low, are distinct but simultaneously non-distinct and simultaneous. Omega is more high than alpha. And this is not in relationship to sex, but sex is gender. Why we have that is its identity of relationship to itself. That which is an identity of the ground relationship that we are only a semi-nature of. While we are more and more of a complete nature of it, where and how it's making more of itself. Temporary / lasting forever nature's volume increasing. The identity that yin yang, all the parts of it are as one, where they will never part. All exceptions of it and demonstration of it. For example, a woman is yin, but she's apart from a male. She's her own individual identity of volume. That's an exception. That's an exception nature and demonstration of the relationship, the relativity of that truth, where I say yin yang can never part. All exceptions in exception nature is a demonstration of this. And that's what also the ancients together revealed Alpha and Omega to teach, which is about this exception nature. Like where being a female is yin, being a male is yang. For example, being a male is also alpha simultaneously in relationship to the exception now. Well, the exception, because this is in relationship to that other identity of value progression, that is the truth, where and how both yin and yang will never separate. Where and as and how we are this identity of value progression, that each identity of value progression individually grouped in together is assigned as it's a scientific value. It's an identity of as sequence nature, as simultaneous nature, that is critical to logic. It's an identity of relationship to the ground, to sequence treatments, in relationship to value treatments. See, we have the branches of government. We have all identity of the ground locations. Maintain victim, defenses of identities, and defenses of blind faith, and identities of laws, identity of titles, value treatments, all exceptions in conjunction with this. Them as victims themselves from this method that came since before our founding parents, America, modern nations, each one. Already they were forced to be defenses of themselves that was simultaneously being forced to group defenses of each other, self-defeating. That value will never go away, but is maintained self-value hyper negative now, rather than hyper positive, which reveals evolution's fruits and gifts and means. But it is per its identity of relationship to itself, per its science, which we are further and further self-valued, tactically ulterior from. And so with positive treatments. And so with identity treatments, simultaneously in collusion with that which used modern nations' identities and then Native Americans' identities. And then the phenomenon of the birth of our founders, too, forced to blame other things other than themselves, forced to hide their roles with putting up the surface values of the Constitution. They didn't have the strength, they didn't have the freedom. As fact, cheaply nature tortured slaves to delineate the defenses of for us, for what we'd have to face and through as ourselves, through all that is left entrenched by them with no means to counter it. That is too all locations, areas, and states within as that native trap, no matter who you are. Where it is all identity the ground locations. And then reactions to the evil with that. Blamed other things others themselves. Defenses of that to collusion with that originally, and still how you defend that. You're locked into a style that's used remote. So, but holidays are about this system that we can't appreciate until we can appreciate how we have recorded all identity the ground sciences as victims, but defenses of identities in relationship to words / values like scientific process and scientific consensus, and uses of it in relationship to fact cheaping nature styles, whereas now everyone has to lie and simultaneously has physical delusions in relationship to all the evidences we need to speak about that demonstrate this when mandated law is not followed, where it is not followed, how it is not followed, how it is tied to through administrations, roles with each identity of the ground location, each identity of sequence nature, used to make them perpetually value further and further what was all that was actually to. Whole bunch of people misprision originally still when they have just even Jim Crow laws, each individual grouped and together who worked for a court, all the various natures of courts, all their value treatments of all locations, areas, and states, each individual identity of the law, evidence reception, justifications of the executive branch, of the political branches. Originally and still they are in collusion with that which is recorded, effectively maintained, all locations, areas, and states, sciences, database relationships, overt criminal enterprises, and all that only let be opinions other in collusion with this, as sensibilities, where and as and how. What we have to counter is not just the physical manifest, but that with where and how our branches of government are recorded, also with private, also with the bar itself, originally and still. Completely fact cheating nature, racketeering, lying, completely faking recorded things into databases, sequence racketeering natures, identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering and worse natures. Now, so they put St. Nicholas in jail. So they took Thanksgiving Alhamdulillah. I don't know how to translate that in Arabic properly, but a hymn in English is like a poem. It's like the sounds grouped with an identity of relationship to themselves that is rhyming. It is hyper-temporary positive, as hyper-temporary positive or negative. Quality of diffusion, per all uses of it towards this value. There's one identity of value progression that is inseparable from each moment. It's questions. From each moment's things, even all the invisible. Anything that can be made up has 2 points, two identities of value progression on both sides of it, has an identity of relationship to itself that is positive or negative. Even if it's a physical illusion, something not real. No identity. I mean, one identity only increases, and it only increases the value of its positive or negative relationship to itself. The same way each identity has positive or negative relationship to itself, within has the value of experience, and us as an identity of volume. Its identity of volume, its identity of value slash value progression. Value is nature, nature is value simultaneously. But a little bit more in between that is us. That little bit more in between that, our Trinity, our piece of the Trinity, is inseparable from two other identities of a complete nature of relationship to itself, inseparable from all parts of itself, and so inseparable from us. Vaccines. So holiday. High omega longs, inherent diffusion. There's an inherent diffusion. There's an active diffusion. And there's a progressive diffusion, which is now value. If you build people stacking across the globe, and the alternative is better, but the alternative still, already since before cars, the pathology of tactically denatured native ground, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that, which is nature demonstrating more and more negative value nature progressions, acts, natures like predicate acts, natures like criminal insidiousness natures. Well, I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, I'm not a criminal. He back, and thanks, Sam Dartborn. That's kind of you. So I was just speaking about. I made this video about the holiday. I wanted to focus on that part because the other one, my video was too long. People tell me I make videos too long, Sam. But I'm glad you're back. And happy holiday. Happy holidays, everybody. YouTube, the people. I think Sam's the only one watching now. 2 people. So hello, everybody. So the holidays came from ancient times, but ancient times also came from before criminal foreign influences took over modern nation sciences, semi-ancient sciences since before modern religions. So now they have the fact-checking nature of everyone, like with America, when they had crazy, crazy laws before our founders were even born, North and South. If anyone spoke about certain things, it's against the law. That's why they have color in there too, because it was an engineering design to keep everyone blaming other things other than themselves, while they were missing what was nations A through Z, Native Americans A through Z, and our founding parents A through Z still. We're not allowed to demonstrate their actual recorded. They didn't have free speech. It's very simple. See, but what is complicated is the insidiousness and the motivations of the people to glorify how the things our founders were forced to pretend, like roles with slavery. Our founders were as fact-checking nature slaves and tortured victims. as Mao Zedong was, as each modern nation, as pharaohs were. No one wants to have a slave. No one could have a slave and not be a slave. The identity of relativity, that is, see, we have obligations by the identity the sciences share onto each identity of science that they're trained away from as victims. You do your job the way you're told to train to do it. You're trying to rely upon identities of the law, identities of experts in relationship to types of crimes, to types of problems, even to health. Originating still, we have known and we have further recorded logic racketeering, medical racketeering with psychology, in conjunction with branches of government. Originally, still, that's where they put St. Nicholas into prison. They were involved originally still with identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering against each individual grouped and together. So President Barack Obama and President Trump, distinctly and non-distinctly, they were simultaneously also, still then and now, prevented free speech and the long words of our species, proper quality of fact, human nature, and forced to entertain that other only having been allowed ever to have been voiced, and that forced to be pretended integrity. That's only capable of being fathomed by everyone because that's how they solved issues in this trap that knew that identities would only be able to define themselves through contrast. They had crazy, we have to focus on those crazy laws. That's focusing on what is invisible but still discernible, which is an identity of relationship to our natures has to itself. That is the same exact one that all parts of the English grammar have to themselves. As all parts of our bodies, each cell, each identity of cell, each identity of the parts of our body, the organs of it, the systems of it, they share a semi-nature relationship to our complete nature. And our complete nature shares this semi-nature relationship to this complete nature that we are, individual, grouped in species, nature, or volume, as three bonded identities of volume that only increase by what identity that is also to identities of volume before and beyond this, also still discernible per science. But it's science that requires use of the identity that is inseparable, distinct from, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And sequentially is how it distinctly is how it is in demonstration. So not only is one to infinity the identity of infinity, but it is infinity to one, infinity to zero from before one. Before matter was physical, before temporary / lasting space nature was a value scientifically, before it had to be generated. What generated it is this identity of forever nature's identity of relationship to itself. Science is obligated to have have the name of for this scientific, for this as a scientific variable, as an element, as an identity of volume, just as oxygen is, just as carbon monoxide is, carbon dioxide, helium. I should learn my basic things. English, I'm a master in English nature, English grammar. We're going to correct it here because it's very subtle, but it's also overt simultaneously. Because each of they have uses of each identity of the ground location, each one. And the value progressions from that, no matter who you are. And has a direct relationship to how we have zoning laws recorded. And now it's debatable if they're criminally foreign influenced or not. But what are not debatable is that they're preventing demonstration of the elements of logic that are actually recorded, but they're prevented voice per offensive originally instilled into branch stacking databases against people, stealing people's identities, making problems between people, kept originally instilled in to keeping each age a fact-keeping nature only capable of it, making non-problems between people in collusion with it. And simultaneously, that's in conjunction with each position, each court, each day, already having made self-value uses of each identity, the ground, location, area, and state, let alone ourselves, as themselves, as their identity of volume, their roles, having blamed other things, others themselves, and having defended that the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, that which the Santa Claus is really about, which is our identity of relationship to this identity of volume we are, as this identity of volume progression, identity of value progression per science. So, but to demonstrate the proofs of it, we have to be able to have mandated law followed, because we have to discern this through each other. But we have to continue to not blame other things other than themselves. And when the courts offensively do that, which they already did and do, then they are in collusion with that which keeps each individual grouped and together, all tied to them, victims of all locations, areas, and states, kept a criminal and seditious nature as logic, as positive treatments, as sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase. They don't really understand the evil of, the collusion of it, and or nor the pseudo positive. Hey, buddy, I don't understand. Is that China, hello China, or Japan, or Thailand? I don't know which. I wish I understood that language. I love Chinese culture because of yin yang. I don't know. I was just speaking by yin yang. There was another video though. But the individual, the grouped in together. Why, how distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously and sequentially. See, we have an identity of the ground relationship that is native pure to itself that we're denying. We're denying the engineering of the system that is evolution's fruits and gifts, its means to that, and it's demonstrating loss of it, lethal Hadis, force space nature transfer. I wanted to see, languages are the best way to communicate. So language as a whole, the languages are manifest the same way humanity is, individual grouped together, also as a living body, like they have a living identity of relationship to itself the same way our body is value is nature, is correlation nature. The order to the finite, order to the active and the progressive, and the value not only of the sequence before each sentence, for example, after it, value too. These are 5 distinct identities of sequence nature, simultaneously showing that how one identity is only semi-nature, the only way it will be and can be semi-nature is as simultaneous nature. So Z through A is value simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, while A through Z is value. Simultaneously, while a third semi-nature is value as the Trinity. Can't help but be it. as more and more temporary positive, making more and more temporary or lasting positive or negative, as a quality of diffusion, as Earth's difference in relationship to the rest of space nature, as one identity of value progression's identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that distinctly onto us, because we are closest to the inherent nature of volume, where and as and how we are in the temporary slash lasting active. So while we force more of ourselves as value as Earth from here by staying systems other than this native one, staying self-valued identity, the ground relationship, these are not even means. We have means way, way beyond. Before cars, they built this pathology of homes. Forced. Anyone spoke about building other, since before our founders were born, they killed those people. They scared the hell out of everyone doing it too. They did it in sick ways, like worse and worse witch trials. But we don't have our history told right. They blame witch trials. Oh, it's most probably because they believed in drugs, because the courts are involved with racketeering, with medicine, and with psychology, with logic, with identity, originally and still. So they have words like ego. They are recorded. That most probably they tried to like reinvent it into and through psychology. Ego stands for energize God's Omega, or it stands for energize giving Omega. And which one is temporary slash lasting positive that is also positive unto itself requires a method of science that requires a scientific value, a word for it. And they had a word for it called prayer. But see, prayer has now been converted to roles in collusion with victim reactions to logic racketeering only having been heard by each individual, each standing identity, ground, location, body, and or its non-existence blamed on other things, others themselves, the causes of it not being existent. For example, integrity in relationship to why when people try to say like simple things, like in other words, we're not free. When people are, when we have people, millions of people, that's where they value other nations that have longer than America been suffered from this from semi-ancient times. This Native Americans and our founders failed to fully liberate yet. If at all possible, we have to do it as a species together. That was a, so languages are the best way to communicate. Oh, it's Brazilian. Brazilian. I hope they're burning now, but we have to preserve nature. No one cares because no one, not that no one cares. No one can fathom what to do. We have to admit each modern nation is a victim and below standards, like below bottom. And we have to admit identity of the ground relationship to itself that is native pure. You know, and the soils the way they are today. That didn't, that's not what revealed all the seeds that are available today. Now by accident they're all contained. You know, victim reactions to it and rolls with it, then self-value. Then in relationship to millions of people, all different people need to have correlation. See, they have the identities of the sciences, jobs, all engineered specifically to self-value. Each age of correlation nature simultaneously inherent, finite, delicate, active with that and with what is strong simultaneously. by what is unbreakable because it's not physical, but it's still scientific value. Still, its identity of relationship to itself is still scientific value. And the value of that is still value two other ways. And one other way with the sequence before that, too. These are identities of sequence nature. The cell nucleus, the cell body, the cell wall. I'm not a scientist. So this is science about what St. Nicholas and Santa Claus is really about, which is about science of the republic for which we stand, which is science about its campus's system, the Campus Martius, spelled with a C, not just with a T. Now, that's how we're going to do this with the little rap guy and friends with the ancient gaming system. And with this YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, Anthony Wall, youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. I use the name Romulus Wall because Anthony Wall was taken. And this is and little rap guy, his name is Romulus. But he goes by little rap guy. He wants to be a rapper, the cartoon character in the YouTube series, cartoon series, Little Rap Guy and Friends. But these are also a scientific tool for not just America, but for all nations too, because this is a means to show, like for the species, like what I'm trying to show with the species when I do videos of saying I'm the species coach, the humanity coach, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. Using that which is simultaneously as a little bit more of volume as value, value is nature as volume. This is volume science. Identity. And we have this relationship to this identity of value progression, tactically separated from from the freedom of speech, with and by the sophistication of its system, and with and by the sequence nature of its system truths in semi-ancient times. The media recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the judicial branch with sequence racketeering, where they use the crime method of pretending that they don't realize the judicial branch involved with wire crimes and mail crimes and uses of their identity of the ground, locations originally instilled to force the wrong outcomes. And to force that no one says anything about it with identity of the ground, locations, areas, and states maintained, breaching method used, worse than slaves, worse than just tortured. This force sustained. See, we have logic racketeering. I'm not even a doctor. I'm capable of delineating the delusions from the also recorded racketeering roles, acts, and natures, and whole methods recorded of doctors involved with all the natures of courts and on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the route that goes by there, on off the road that goes by there. For example, with Enzo Fienzo and with his cousin and men and women associated with them with WFSB. I don't know them. I only know them in context. They recorded, confessed, and demonstrated further involved with a detective for retired standing Kevin Dillon. He's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the Sean Dillon. I never had a conversation with myself personally. With a Sean Dillon, Kevin Dillon, Anna Dillon, and she used the name Annie Dillon too, with various natures of courts and other Wethersfield police and the police chief and their families and their neighbors involved with them with racketeering of juxtaposed natures, and further on off a principal sex offenders campus, and further with my new and past neighbors. Now, this is also internation with a whole bunch of nations at once. And this is also in relationship to the Santa Claus, in relationship to how they put St. Nicholas in jail. This is also in relationship to English grammar, the value of a predicate, in demonstration of the value of the identity of a verb to itself, as the same one that each identity, male or female, has to itself. Each identity of value progression, even one neutral like a rock, it's identity. It's as a relationship to what will not stay neutral, the way it's only increasing, and it will also, but it will stay, and it will only stay positive to itself. Exceptions and exception nature is here in relationship to Earth's difference, which is demonstrably, per science, closest to the inherent nature of volume of one identity of value progression, identity of relationship to itself, that has three semi-natures of volume: inherent, active, and progressive. So it has a distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identity of relationship to itself. So its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that is the Trinity, is one identity. It is how identity is a nature of volume, as forever nature that only fills. All exceptions are in demonstration of it, and it's so, like, we have we are an identity that has experience that is gone, but it's still here as positive or negative. But now through systems tactically ulterior from the one that is about the engineering of positive and negative, is about and as its identity of relationship from the ground of, and as the ground's value ties to our active quality of fact treatment nature, as an identity of volume, as hyper positive or negative, as temporary positive, simultaneously as a quality of diffusion. So a criminal insidious nature is going to have sense and sensibilities tactically ulterior from someone with no criminally foreign influences. And so an ancient criminal enterprise, the devil, this is also why Little Rap Guy and friends are an anti-archetypal criminal enterprise. They're still a criminal enterprise, but they're against what already has the branches of government in the cartoon value nature system, mimicking how it's really in the real value nature system. When you see people stacking throughout in China and in America, I saw on Reddit, they build the buildings, and they can house these many people here, and then it's cheaper this way, because we're in value nature systems that are valued cheap already, worse than cheap. They're victims that blame the causes of it on other things other than themselves, and then defended that as styles manifest the same way styles are forced to stay manifest in boxing, in karate. The styles are forced if you want to survive. Enough fights, like, for example, to make money. Enough fights to not get knocked out if you fight a good person in a fight. Anybody could be anyone in a fight, though. Is one of the rules or one of the things they always say in boxing. Like John Gallucci, Dinosaur Boxing. See, but we have, in 2006, there's a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, who's associated with dozens of people, associated with the house next to me, with extended family members further involved with federal criminals with them, and other cases proven, and with the witness protection program, and with people associated with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso criminally, as a Fianza family that pretended to be the fake locations, fake words, conversation with them, natures of conversation with them, and with a whole bunch of police departments, fire department people, and on and off Connecticut news organizations as other victims too, interbranch involved with roles with racketeering, where they already use the judicial branch and their police interbranch for databases racketeering, where they're stealing people's identities, putting falsified police reports into databases, human trafficking, crime methods, pretending people are making conspiracy theories while they are simultaneously forging names and switching names, uses of their identity to the ground, locations to stack further and further upon that already recorded stack. Then they had such, and they have such as roles interstates from Connecticut, intercampuses and interbranch, intermilitary, identity recorded tied, identity thefts, frauds, racketeering, uses of that, sequence shifts. See, an identity is a sequence nature. We have identity ground locations associated with what they call criminal justice, what they call training jobs, what they call training. That's what they say, oh, it's training. They have shared policing of nations. They have shared training policing of nations on and off campuses like Central Connecticut State University, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering methods, bonded, that is with and as that method that used slavery in the north here in Connecticut, and in the north right here in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and there in New Britain, all the way around, Hartford, Connecticut. This is where George Washington had to come, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Even with the French general's help, to meet with the French general, could only semi-counter extort that which he had to leave with slavery entrenched in the north. So 24/7, all year round, no one could be positive. No one could be good for Santa. So Santa cannot give evolution's fruits and gifts. Santa's no joke. See, but they took it to a story. They reinvented the sciences. They reinvented the theaters. The great native theater. I'll see. It's not to belittle the any other theater in relationship to the opinions. Preventing mandated law, having prevented mandated law, pretending the title means what it doesn't. Sequence racketeering, influenced and worse influenced readings of statutes, pretending to have the right to do that. They're lying about what is actually recorded online over the phones. They're lying about what is actually recorded as their roles with database racketeering uses of each campus in town as the people intercities using it through time. Same method that was here since before our founders. They even have families associated with homeschool involved, recorded how kept needing to hide racketeering acts rolls with them. The same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies. Drug crime rolls, crimes with untimely death, crimes with lawyers, judges in police forms, former director of the FBI down. I'll gather around boxings. So we have media recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with crimes with judges and police forms where they use the method pretending people have conspiracy theories after they already attached us to fake words. So they prevent further and further people from having free speech by stealing our identities and our work and our words and making things pretended debatable. They use the crime method of pretending that there's a means to sue when they're forcing all those racketeering acts connected. They are preventing people from free speech very subtly, many ways juxtaposed, but also overt. And they're also recorded connected. And you can see that overt. But you have to follow the overt. And that reveals what people have been doing with the subtle on and off campuses. They never realized they'd have to do it. This was here as sophistication of the as the sophistication of each identity, ground, location, area, and state since before our founders were born. They already tactically denatured nations A through Z, their education, including Native Americans A through Z. They had long words of an identity of sophistication, other. The Campus Marcius and the Republic for which we stand, revealed by the ancients, were theirs. That's what's more probable than what is perceived practical by the reason of those associated with scientific consensus and scientific process. And guys are all involved with opinions, as identity ground relationships know, even if you're a person floating in a space station. Yeah. The means return one way alone prepared. Okay, thank you for coming out this evening. If everyone's still around. Good night. Thanks for listening, you guys. So happy holidays. I, I can't sing the song. You can't do the lyrics. They're not my own. I would sing